The rain was coming down hard that night. The kind of cold, merciless rain that seemed to wash the color out of everything. A lone figure stumbled through the storm. A woman soaked to the bone, clutching her swollen belly with trembling hands. Her name was Marissa, and she was 8 months pregnant, barefoot, and bleeding from a cut on her lip. Her clothes were torn, her breath shallow. She had run for miles through back roads and darkness, escaping something or someone that had left her more frightened than she'd ever been in her life. She didn't know where she was going. All she knew was that she had to keep moving, that her baby had to live. Through the sheets of rain, she saw a flicker of neon light, the Devil's Disciples Bar. The name itself might have scared most people away, but Marissa was out of options. Her knees nearly gave out as she pushed the heavy door open. The bar went silent. Inside were about a dozen men, leather jackets, tattoos, heavy boots, the smell of oil, and beer thick in the air. Their eyes turned toward her, confused, curious, guarded. She looked like she'd walked out of another world and into the lion's den. Her hair stuck to her face, her cardigan clung to her body, and her eyes, full of desperation, met those of a large man with a gray beard and arms covered in ink. He stood near the counter, his vest marked with the word President. Marissa's lips quivered. She whispered, "Please, I need help. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that even the hardest hearts can still do the right thing, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because this story is one you won't forget." The man she had spoken to was Reed, a biker who had seen more pain than most men could endure. He'd buried his brother, lost his family, and carried guilt that he never talked about. He had been trying to rebuild his club's reputation, to turn it from a name feared on the streets into something that meant loyalty, not chaos. But when Marissa entered that night, shaking and covered in rain, he wasn't thinking about redemption. He was thinking about what kind of trouble was about to walk through his door. Marissa could barely stand. She sank to her knees on the cold tile floor, her hands clasped as if praying, "Please, someone's after me. He said he'd kill me if I left. I just need to make it through tonight." The men exchanged uncertain looks. A few muttered under their breath. A pregnant woman, scared, broken, asking a gang of bikers for help. It sounded like a story no one wanted to be part of. But Reed couldn't look away. There was something in her eyes, a kind of pain he recognized. He knelt down in front of her and saw the bruises on her wrists. She had been hurt badly. They took her to the back booth, wrapped her in a towel, gave her water, and listened as she tried to speak through trembling lips. Her voice was small, fragile. She told them about Carl, her husband, a man who promised to love her, but instead turned her life into a nightmare. When she got pregnant, he grew more violent, controlling, dangerous. That night, he had thrown her against a wall when she said she was leaving. So, she ran without shoes, without a plan, just hope. Reed stood silent for a long moment, then looked at his men. Nobody touches her. Nobody questions her. She stays here tonight. And with that, he made a decision that would change all of their lives. They set up a cot in the office, brought her warm food, even found an old blanket someone's mother had made. One of the younger bikers, Tanner, found her a pair of dry clothes from the storage room. She thanked them through tears. None of them had heard words like, "Thank you, you," in a long time. Not like that. As the hours passed, Reed sat outside the office door, a beer in his hand, but his mind somewhere else. He thought about his own daughter, the one he hadn't seen in 10 years. He remembered how she used to cling to his arm when she was little. And how he'd chosen his bike over her one too many times. He thought about how life gives you moments, rare, sacred moments, to do the right thing, even when the world thinks you're the worst person alive. Just before dawn, the sound of a truck pulling up outside shattered the fragile calm. The men looked toward the window. Headlights glared through the rain. Reed stood up slowly. "Stay with her," he ordered, his voice low. He walked to the door, his boots echoing against the floor. A man stumbled in, big, angry, wild-eyed. "Where is she?" he roared. "Where's my wife?" The bikers surrounded him in silence. Reed stepped forward. "You need to leave." Carl's face twisted with rage. "She's mine. You hear me? Mine." He lunged toward the office door, but before he could reach it, Tanner and 2 others held him back. The scene was tense, brutal. A storm inside a storm. Reed stared him down, his jaw tightening. Not anymore, Reed said quietly. You lost that right when you laid your hands on her. It was over in minutes. The police, called by one of the men quietly moments earlier, took Carl away. Marissa, trembling, heard everything from behind the door. When she finally came out, she found Reed sitting alone at a table, head bowed, rain still dripping from his jacket. She walked over, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "You saved my life." Reed looked up, his voice barely a whisper. "No, sweetheart, you saved ours." Days passed. Marissa stayed until she could find shelter. The bikers fixed her car, gave her money, and promised her she'd never have to be afraid again. When she left, she hugged each of them. Men who'd once been feared, now standing quietly, trying not to cry. Reed walked her out, placed a folded piece of paper in her hand, an address, just in case she ever needed help again. Months later, a letter arrived at the bar. It was from Marissa. Inside was a photo, a newborn baby boy wrapped in a blue blanket. On the back, in soft handwriting, she'd written, "His name is Hope, because that's what you gave us." The men stood around the bar that night, silent. Some smiled, some wiped their eyes. Reed held the photo the longest, his rough fingers trembling. Maybe life hadn't given him a second chance with his own child, but somehow helping Marissa had healed something he didn't even know was still broken. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe.